Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session. I'm very proud to present Professor Hamid Tizhoosh, who is a pioneering figure in the field of artificial intelligence and medical imaging. Professor Tizhoosh serves as a professor of biomedical informatics in the Department of Artificial Intelligence and Informatics at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, which is one of the most prestigious medical institutions in the world. He earned his combined BSc and MSc in engineering and computer science from Aachen University in Germany and completed his PhD in medical image analysis at OVG University in Magdeburg. Over nearly 3 decades, Professor Tizhoosh has been at the forefront of research in AI, computer vision, and medical image analysis, translating computational innovation into clinical impact. As the founder and director of Kimia Lab, which stands for Laboratory for Knowledge Inference in Medical Image Analysis, he has led groundbreaking work in developing algorithms for medical image filtering, segmentation, and search, as well as advanced methods in federated learning, stain normalization, and horizontal search for complex diagnostic cases. Before joining Mayo Clinic, Professor Tizhoosh conducted influential research at the University of Toronto and the University of Waterloo, while also guiding multiple startups and commercialization efforts in healthcare AI. His distinguished publication record includes 2 books, numerous book chapters, and a substantial body of peer-reviewed research that continues to shape the future of digital pathology and precision diagnostics. So we are very honored to have you here today, and we are very much looking forward to your lecture. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zali. I appreciate the kind introduction. Say good afternoon from Minnesota in USA, or good evening to you in London, England, and anywhere else you might be. I appreciate Dr. Zali's invitation for the opportunity to talk. I understand that's a mixed audience and it's always challenging, so I put some useful for you. So when we say AI is basically at the moment is talking about foundation models and its relationship with the information retrieval, which is the part of a technology that is more than 30 years old, and see what people can do or what we can do in computational pathology with this type of technologies. So everything starts with, okay, what is an artificial neural network, which is the cornerstone, the building block of artificial intelligence. Everything starts with a single artificial neuron. You can put many more together, arrange them in so-called layers. And then when you have an output layer, you have a hidden layer, you have an input layer, and you connect them in a feed-forward manner together. Everything is connected to everything. So we call that an artificial neural network, and those circles are basically artificial neurons or processing units. And then you put some input, and then you train the network to learn something. So there are many types of topologies, the way that you can arrange those processing units or artificial neurons. The first one was perceptron, historic ones more than 80 years ago, almost. Multi-layer perceptron, almost as old. So the one that I showed you is basically a multi-layer perceptron or MLP. Then we got autoencoders, convolutional neural networks, recurrent neural networks, generative adversarial networks, and transformers, which are the working horse of AI. So of course, we don't have time to go in any details. I'm just saying that architecture that we saw, hidden layer, output layer, input layer. So you can do that in many different ways, and then you get many of this different type of artificial neural networks or topology. So what do they do? What do these artificial neural networks or ANNs do? What is their function? So they have we have some quantitative AI modeling when they specialize on a specific task. We're using label data, segmentation, subtyping, survival prediction, assigning the images to molecular data, and so on. So this is basically supervised AI, and the models are trained for specific tasks. Then we have qualitative AI models. They are rather general purpose and they use unlabeled data. So the data is not annotated, for example, foundation models to learn representation, which means they create some numbers that represent the complex medical image data in some easy way for the computers to understand. So anytime that we deal with some sort of artificial neural network or AI model, we are dealing with one of these two categories. Again, going back to that general idea or simple scheme of artificial neural networks that you have some neurons, here the yellow circles, and they are heavily connected to each other to mimic the connectedness of the human brain in the central nervous system, then you get some input and output. So we are hoping in computational pathology that if we present the tissue image, the human tissue that comes mainly from biopsy, we can, the AI models can tell us the diagnosis. They can recommend treatment planning. They can predict survival and so on and so on. So to do treatment planning and diagnosis, you have to do a lot of other stuff, among other, estimate, let's say, the gene expressions from the images if you can. So there's a lot of hope that AI models can help us there. So if we get, again, a part of a tissue and put it in an AI model, basically we are hoping that we can get into that complicated AI space or latent space. And every, let's say, cancer type here as a cloud with a different color is clearly separated from others, or at least most of them are clearly separated. And these are the cancer subtypes from the Cancer Genome Atlas TCGA, that publicly available data set that I'm sure most of you know. So that's what we hope. If AI models can crunch the numbers from a tissue image, then we can basically categorize, among others, when we talk about cancer, and they are not confined to cancer. We can do it for any other disease. We can arrange the complexity of the diagnosis and then thereafter the treatment planning in a much more manageable space that is called the embedding space or latent space of AI models. So the main question for us is, because the biggest problem we have in medicine in general is observable variability, which is a cute name for error. So can AI remove variability? If we show an image to 5 pathologists or radiologists, you may get 5 different opinions or 5 different diagnoses. So that's an error, that because the problem is difficult. Human anatomy is at the macro micro level very difficult to discern. So can AI help us to remove the variability and come to deterministic, non-stochastic decision making? So if we take that tissue image and we classify it, basically we are making yes and no decision, or we want to predict at the stage and grade of the cancer, or we get some probability or likelihood. So what is it that we are saying here? We are saying basically many physicians must accept what the machine says. So that's what we are saying. When we use a supervised classifier, it doesn't matter an algorithm or an AI model, a full-fledged AI model. Basically, we are saying that if these models are good, the physicians must accept what the machine says. Many physicians, in my experience, won't accept that. So we are not there to trust fully the AI models. Search is a different approach. If I get the same input and we search, so we find, let's say, the top 3 similar patient or similar tissue, similar anatomy, and those patients come with a lot of annotated data with the reports and outcome and everything. So here we are expecting that one physician, one clinician has to accept what many other physicians have said about similar type of morphology, anatomy, and so on. Well, that could happen more likely because we can say, look, this image of yours is similar to those patients and your colleagues made this type of decision. So that could be a virtual type of consultation or second opinion. So what about generative AI? So if we give the image to a generative AI, then the generative AI may say some stuff if it has been trained in a multimodal way with high quality clinical data, then we are expecting that one physician must trust generative AI. If all physicians, if all specialists, if all clinicians trust generative AI, then generative AI solves the problem. So, and then we are done. So, but we see that in reality, it is not that simple. So we have fundamentally different type of AI. We have classification, we have search, we have generative AI, and they must exhibit some features to be trustable. So they must have high accuracy and no bias. They must generalize. For example, generative AI does that quite nicely. They must be explainable. They must be doing source attribution, and they should not do no distortion, no hallucination, and so on. So depending on what technology you use, some of these features are satisfied, some of them they are not. So, and one has to be clear, and most of the time we basically combine all these three technologies together to come to a trustable solution. So my bias is that I am almost entirely focused on search. And I think searching is intelligence. And I think every time that our radiologists and pathologists look at images, they do search in their brain, but they do it in a non-explicit way. And we don't know how they do it. We don't know how we search images in our brain to find a face that we have seen 20 years ago. So searching, when we talk about search, actually it goes back to the roots of AI. Back in the 50s and 60s, we had logic-based search, and we were searching for proofs of mathematical theorems. Right now, we are doing it completely different, and large language models do a much better job in that regard. And once upon a time, we were talking back in the late 50s about the GPS, the general problem solver. And we had the ambition that we can come up with AI that can solve all problems. Well, we are sort of saying that at the moment also about generative AI and all multimodal generative AI. We will see where we go. So it seems at the moment what LLMs are is basically a talking encyclopedia. Another search, we had a star search algorithm in the 60s to find the shortest path when robots navigate. We had alpha beta pruning in the 60s to constitute adversarial search through game trees such that you can make a faster decision for chess and checker. Games have been a medium to prove that artificial intelligence is capable. There were rule-based expert systems for medicine that people hoped, and that was one of the disappointment that the expert system did not work. And we were using the rules like if the stain of organism is gram positive and the morphology of the organism is coccus, and then the growth and so on and so on. So we were using if then else rules to quantify, to represent human knowledge. That didn't work quite well in the 70s and 80s. Well, that worked to some extent, but the expectations were quite high. So now, after many decades of the start of artificial intelligence and information retrieval, actually we are seeing a renaissance of information retrieval, which may go under in the old buzz and hype about AI and generative AI and multimodal AI. So what is it going on? So the keyword is here retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. So generative AI guesses. So that's an educated guess. But finding or search is about really going after evidence. So large language models, LLM, they are trained on massive amount of data. They are really good at generating human quality text, but they have problems with factual accuracy, and they have problem with staying up to date. So you have to keep updating them. So, and there are external knowledge sources, because the knowledge that you give to an AI model, it will be swallowed and devoured, and it goes basically in that black box that has become bigger and bigger. But we have repositories of information. Let's say on the internet, we have PubMed, and we have internal data sets. So RAG, the retrieval augmented generation, is you can access those supplement information and provide it to the large language model. So retrieval augmented generation means improve the AI with retrieving evidence in medicine. So we can prompt a RAG platform. So we search for the knowledge and find a piece of knowledge and we retrieve it. Then we combine the retrieved evidence with what we are asking large language models, the prompt, such that the LLM has a better input. And then the LLM can base its response in factual information and thereby reducing the risk of hallucination and obsolete information. So just here before I forget, so when you see it, you see a lot of RAG paper, but they retrieve text to back up text. So generative AI is about text. You cannot back up text with text. You have to back up text with evidence in medicine. Evidence in medicine is radiology, pathology, lab. Text is not evidence. So advantages of RAG, of course, it will enhance the accuracy, increases the reliability and trust into AI, and brings more transparency through source attribution. When I ask, how do you know that? I show an image and say, what is the molecular subtype of this? And you generative AI something. I say, how do you know that? You should be able to give me a source. Attribute your decision to a source. Generative AI cannot do that unless we connect it to information retrieval. So the problem becomes for us how to search, which means if we cannot search, we cannot actually use generative AI in a reliable manner in medicine. So requirements for creating index data set in medicine in order to be able to search is you need high quality clinical data. You cannot grab data from online, even PubMed papers or websites. This is not high quality clinical data. You need diverse population to be able to generalize. You need multimodal data. You need pathology, radiology, omics. You need reports. You need patient demographic, and so on. Of course, you need fast algorithm to search because then the databases are large, very large, and they are growing and growing. You should be able to search fast. The physician cannot wait 2 hours for you to go and search. You should literally take seconds. So, and it should have a low demand for indexing storage. Storage is a big problem. If you create an algorithm that can search and is very accurate, but it requires exhaustive amount of storage. That's not going to be deployed in clinical utility because hospitals have to pay for that. It has to be robust. We have the principle of graceful degradation in computer science. You cannot just fail. If you fail to search properly and find something and come back, everything else will fail. So you have to fail gracefully such that the physician can continue to work in the clinical setting, and you have to have a user-friendly interface, of course. If we look at whole slide images, which are gigantic images, computers at the moment cannot process those images. They can be easily 80,000 pixel by 100,000 pixel in color. So they are 1, 2, 3 gigabyte of data per image, and then every patient comes with multiple of these images. So in order to make it accessible to computers, you have to either subset them, so you just select one region from the image, or you have to patch them. So there is this two possibilities at the moment based on everything we have, based on the computer's infrastructure, GPUs. This is the two things that we can do. The subsetting is a supervised approach. You have either a physician, a pathologist select that subset, which is a big chunk of the tissue, and say, okay, what I'm looking for is right here. Don't look anywhere else. Or if we cannot do that, then you have to select many, many patches and then process those patches or tiles. So we cannot process the entire biopsy image in pathology. That's the main problem at the moment. At the moment, we cannot put a 100,000 by 100,000 pixel image into GPU and say, go. And networks cannot handle it. As a matter of fact, foundation models use 200 pixels in dimension. 224 by 224 is ridiculously small compared to the actual size. So if you look at the gigapixel whole slide image, WSI, whole slide image, because the glass slide that we have in the lab goes in a scanner, get digitized, and then we get a digital image. So we cannot process it. So what we do is we patch it. We break it down in many, many small tiles. But then what we have to do, we have to divide this gigantic file into smaller patches and select some of them. This has to be unsupervised, biopsy independent, diagnostically inclusive, and efficient. Then you can put it through some network and get features or embeddings, as people call it. So here's when foundation models come in, and then hopefully they can understand human tissue, and then they can give us good features or characterize human tissue. And then you combine them for the computer, make them smaller, make them faster. So, and we can continue with that. So why do we need the divide? So you need the divide because it's big. We cannot randomly select patient patches. That doesn't work. Subsetting is supervised needs annotation. We don't have annotation. Or most papers don't even mention that, but they basically process all patches. But that's excessive storage and is very slow, will not be able to be deployed in clinical utility. And this is one of the major critics I have to academic papers. They process the entire thing and then they give good numbers in terms of accuracy, but that's not feasible. We cannot do this in practice. It requires a lot of storage and fast computers. Somebody has to pay for that. And many hospitals, actually majority of hospitals, will not have those type of infrastructure to do it. So the divide has to be universal, has to be applied to all organs. It should be independent of the tissue size and shape. It should not miss anything that is diagnostically relevant, and it should be really fast, and it should be storage efficient. These are the last one. The storage is something that is surprisingly not very attractive to researchers, especially to young colleagues. I don't know why. Accuracy, yes. Diagnostic, yes. But storage is not interesting. I'm assuming that's because most high impact journals won't publish a paper if you're just talking about storage efficiency. But this is the last frontier of deploying AI to be useful for the patients. And if you cannot make it efficient, then we cannot use it. So okay, and so when we come to the unimodal retrieval, if we have just a whole slide image, we patch it, we push it through a deep network AI model, a foundation model, and then we get the index, which are basically deep features. People call it also embedding, attributes, features. And then you can create your atlas, which is basically index patches, and then the metadata that is associated, pathology reports, let's say, that provides a lot of information. And then now you can start searching. So if I have a whole slide image, and I send it to my search engine, the search engine goes and find similar whole slide images. Again, these images are gigantic. In order to see the actual similarity, you have to zoom in at the cellular level to see why they have been selected as similar. And then you also retrieve the corresponding reports for those similar patients. So one pathologist is looking at the query image, but the images that you find have been processed by other pathologists. So that's why image search is actually a new type of consultation, is a new type of getting a second opinion, virtual second opinion, computational second opinion. But we don't have this yet in hospitals. There are still a lot of problem. Among others, our embeddings and features are not good. So if you have the query image and we send it, and we get to, let's say, the top 3 patients that are similar, their tissue, their biopsy is similar to my patient, and we retrieve also the reports, there you go. Now we can provide those reports to large language model. That's retrieval-augmented generation. And then the LLM will combine them into a computational second opinion and tells you, well, that's intraductal papilloma. So you get a subtyping based on evidence, but that works, of course, if many other things have to work. And then when we send a query to search and retrieval and we find, let's say, the top 10 sorted list of matching, some of them are correct, green, some of them are not correct, red. So, and then we look, let's say, at the top 5. In the computer vision, people look at top N and say, if one of these 5 is correct, if one of them is green, then we are fine. But in medicine, we cannot do that. In the medicine, we say the majority of the similar cases that you retrieve have to be correct. So the majority here will be wrong. but the top end based on the computer vision will be correct. So that's why, again, when you talk about image search in medicine, you have to go with a majority vote, which is at least 51% has to be correct. Then we consider it correct. And then we calculate precision and recall and F1 score. One of the things is that I don't, it seems that area under the curve, which is standard in medicine, is of little value in AI. It doesn't help much that I have an area under the curve of 88. Tell me the F1 score, and then I tell you how good you are. If an F1 score of 88 is extremely good, so, but if you have an F1 score of 88, perhaps your AUC is 99. So it's one of the sticking points in academic research, what metric to use to report. So there are many search engines. I don't want to go in details of this, but we will go through some of the things. So again, you need high quality clinical data, you need diverse population, multimodal data. It has to be fast, it has to be lean in storage, it has to be robust, and it has to be user-friendly. There are methods that they do divide in a different way and conquer in different way and combine in different way. So some of them can process whole slide images like the bag of visual words and Utixel. Some of them, they cannot actually process whole slide images, and they do some tricks to be able to come up with a label for the whole slide image. If we look at the top 5 accuracy of this search engine here for liver, skin, colorectal cancer, and breast, we will see that the accuracies are quite modest, and then you can look at them at top 5 and the second best results. But this is one of the criteria that we need. So, and then if you look at the second, the searching time, how long does it take that you give me that answer? You see that there is a gigantic difference between the search methods. Some of them take a long time to respond. Some of them are quite fast. Some of them, that even though they are accurate, they fail a lot. So for some of the search, they fail and they do not provide any result. That's very concerning. You cannot just give me the accuracy of the 70% that you could process. And for 30% of the patient, you failed and you could not give me any answer. So if methods, so for example, bag of visual words only failed for 4 cases, for 4 patients. There are methods that fail for the majority of the cases. If you are failing in the majority of the cases, I cannot use you for the ones that you accurately process. So that's very important. The search time is very important. Failure is very important. And then the storage. How much storage do you need to do your work? And we see, for example, again, bag of visual words is very lean, doesn't need much, but there are methods that there are search engines that they need a lot of storage. So, and this is prohibitive. You cannot actually use them. As long as you are using it to publish a paper for 200 patients, that's fine, but we cannot use it in clinical utility. The one with the longest here needs 31 terabyte of memory if to process 1 million whole slide image. 1 million whole slide images is barely for 70, 80,000 patients. So that would not be a feasible approach. So why storage is important? Because we are talking about democratization of AI. So if we don't want AI to be just for the Western Hemisphere, for the Western Europe and United States and Canada and Japan, and the rest of the world has access to us, may people send their the images, the patient's images to us, and we process them. That's fine, but we should be able to do it in an affordable way. We can, because whatever the cost of the computer and the GPU and storage is, we will hand it down to the other clinics, the smaller clinics that ask us for second opinion. So, and those small clinics and hospitals across the planet, they are already financially and operationally stressed healthcare systems. We cannot ask for excessive extra storage. To me, one of the first thing that I check when a new method comes for search or retrieval or any method, I say, how much storage do you need? Because the argument cannot be, okay, in 5 years they will be cheap. Well, whatever cheap will be, then our images will be bigger. We have new modalities, things will never level out that you say, oh, we will have less to pay, so it will be cheaper. Designing efficient algorithm beside accuracy is absolutely paramount to maintain democratization of AI. So, and when we ranked all of them, and then some of them are performing well with respect to all of it, accuracy of top search results, the searching time, how many times you fail, and how much storage you need. All of that at the same time, not just accuracy, not just accuracy. And we need simple, fast, accurate, consistent methods. And perhaps bag of visual words is one of our best chances in the future, but we still have a long way to go. So can foundation models, which at the moment there is a lot of buzz and hype and noise around them, can they help us for image search? Because if they can, then image search can help generative AI, can help the chat GPTs of the world to do a good job in medicine. So what is a foundation? A foundation model is basically a large scale, is a big model, is gigantic, is big. It usually is a transformer, and it needs a lot of diverse data sets, and it learns in a self-supervised manner. So basically, is a big model trained with a lot of data. Okay, we call it foundation model. But since we don't have enough labeled or annotated data, it will be trained in a self-supervised manner. That's why we call it a foundation model. So when we look at, let's say, DenseNet and ResNet and BERT, and then we got ChatGPT, and now GPT-5 has at 1.5 trillion parameters is gigantic. So for some reason, we decided that any model, any AI model above 300 million is called a foundation model. But if you have a smaller one that you train in a self-supervised manner and is good, it's a foundation model. So the question is, can it be used for other purposes? So a foundation model should show unexpected capabilities. That's when it gets really interesting. And one of them is zero-shot learning. You take it off the shelf, you push your images through it, and then you get your embedding or features or attributes, and then you can work with that. So that's zero shot. I don't do anything. I just got downloaded from GitHub. I just got it from the internet, and I'm using it, and it's amazing without being explicitly trained for my task. So GPT series, BERT, stable diffusion, all of that clip, these are type of foundation models. So, and the idea is that if you have a foundation model in the seminal paper from Stanford, that you basically can take it and adapt it for many different tasks, downstream tasks. We can use it for cell detection, segmentation, classification, survival prediction, and for image search, for captioning, for many. It's intriguing. It's amazing if we can do this. So do foundation model actually deliver? So in the past 15, 16 months, since, starting in summer of last year, we got, I don't know, meanwhile, we have probably 9 or 10 foundation models in pathology, in histopathology. So do they deliver? So we look at their accuracy, at their robustness, and their generalization, and at their efficiency. We tested them when they came out. We tested them for search. We were very interested. I was very excited that if the foundation models are good, then our problem of search and retrieval is done. Then we can build a recommendation system. We can help generative AI and so on. But as you can see here, the numbers are very, very humbling, less than 50%. So the average is, the best approach was 42%. By the way, there was no statistical significant difference among all these models. All of them were around 40, 41, 42. So that was disappointing to me personally as a researcher, because I thought, oh my God, so if that works, we have solved the problem of search. Then another paper came out that says, okay, actually the foundation models, they are not very robust. They don't go after the cancer subtype. They go after the hospital, after the site. So they are biased toward the site. And we knew that. We knew that already from the previous. That's a problem that almost all AI models have. And then another paper came out that says, oh, they are not rotationally invariant. So compared to Pathino, which is a small model, 9 million, compare 9 million with 300 million or 1.5 billion. This is a tiny model. And it was better in this study, better than the foundation models for rotation. What does that mean? You take an image, you give it to the foundation model, and you subtype it and say it's papillary carcinoma. You rotate it, and the foundation model changes its mind and say, well, okay, maybe it's ductal carcinoma. What? That we cannot have that. That's not. We cannot permit that in medicine, that you change your opinion because tissue does not have any orientation. That's very disappointing that they are not rotationally invariant. That came another paper from Karolinska, many other groups, and that was a lot of information that they foundation models 35 times require more energy, and they need a lot of data for to be specifically trained or fine-tuned. So they don't have intrinsic generalization. So, and one of them that I didn't have time to include it here was just came out from UCLA, that foundation models are susceptible to adversarial attacks, and their accuracy in a given case can drop from 97% to 10%. So adversarial attacks are not just a security risk. They can also happen with the noise and light fluctuations during imaging. So foundation models are not accurate. They are not robust. They are sensitive to rotation. They cannot generalize. They are very expensive to run, and they cannot be fine-tuned. They cannot be more disappointed than this. So why are foundation models failing? Whereas the foundation models in non-medical systems and outside of medicine, they are actually performing well. So okay, in when we look at foundation models, it seems we are underestimating the complexity of human tissue. When we look at cats and dogs that AI classifies, AI can recognize dogs, AI can also tell you the breed of the dog. But this is a task that also a 6 years old child can do. So that means AI is at the level of a 6 years old child. But human tissue, to recognize that, you have to be an adult with decades of training and education. Maybe AI is not at that level yet. So AI uses self-supervision. So when you look at this image and we don't know that's a dog, what self-supervision does, that says, okay, this is the photo, and this crop is the head of the dog is also the dog. The tail of the dog is the dog. The leg of the dog is the dog. Again, we don't know even it's a dog. We say the same image. So if you want to do it for the pathology image, well, I'm not sure it works. Empirical evidence shows it doesn't work, because when you make it smaller, this is not the same thing. And the field of view is very important in pathology. Another problem is that these models are quite complex, and maybe Occam's razor doesn't like it, because we rather tend to have simple solution if we come up with a good solution. So, and the foundation models, they're claiming to be general purpose, but that's contradictory to no free lunch theorem in computer science. No free lunch theorem says you have to specialize. Otherwise, on average, you are the same as everybody else. And our search comparisons show that all of them, some of them trained with 100,000, some of them trained with 2 million, some of them had 300 million parameters, some of them had 1.5 million parameter, 1.5 billion parameters. So, but all of them converge to around 42% accuracy. That's the manifestation of no free lunch theorem, that you are trying to be general. So on average, you are the same as everybody else. So another problem is the lack of innovation. So everybody goes to Hugging Face, get get a model from their a VIT, a vision transformer of some size. The training is there, the Dino version 1 or version 2 or now version 3, and you put your images into that. Is that it? Is that it? So we we don't have any innovation to adjust it to somehow the topology, to histopathology, to human tissue. That has not happened yet. Hopefully we go in that direction, that we customize AI. I'm not talking about customize in terms of training, topology, architecture, loss function, specific type of learning for histopathology. That has not happened yet. So when we look at CLIP as one of the most successful examples in non-medical AI, they use 400 million image caption pairs. 400 million. To even come close to that, you need 5 million whole slide images and their corresponding reports. At the moment, nobody has that. One, we have the data, but you need to prepare the data. You need to spend a lot of time to do that. Maybe if you do that, we can get there. But again, that's a monumental data management project. And the question is, what is a foundation model? So is it all fanfare or flair? So we need a meticulous approach in curating high quality domain specific data such that when we train, the models are robust and reliable, and we can trust them. So I made it intentionally short such that we have a little bit of time. If there are any questions, I appreciate your attention. I'll stop here.